The ER is never truly quiet, but there are moments when the noise fades into the background and everything feels routine. That night started like that. Fluorescent lights humming overhead, the steady beep of monitors, the low murmur of nurses trading updates at the station. I'd been working there long enough to recognize the rhythm of a normal shift, and nothing about it felt unusual. We were understaffed, overworked, and moving on muscle memory. People came in hurting. We stabilized them, documented everything, and moved on. It was mechanical, predictable. That's why what happened later still doesn't make sense to me, no matter how many times I replay it. I was charting when the triage nurse waved me over and nodded toward one of the beds near the back. "We've got to walk in," she said. Male, mid-40s maybe, complaining of chest tightness and dizziness. Nothing alarming on its own. People came in with those symptoms every hour. I grabbed a chart and headed over, already thinking about vitals and questions I'd asked 1,000 times before. The man was sitting upright on the bed, hands folded neatly in his lap, staring at the wall like he was waiting for something to happen. He looked normal at first glance. No blood, no obvious injuries, no smell of alcohol or sweat. His clothes were plain, almost generic. Dark jacket, gray shirt, jeans, the kind of outfit you wouldn't remember 5 minutes later. But when I introduced myself and asked his name, there was a pause. Not a confused pause, more like he was deciding whether or not to answer. Finally, he gave me a first name. Just a first name. When I asked for his last name, he smiled faintly and said he didn't think it was necessary. That was the first moment I felt a flicker of unease. Patients forget things all the time. Names, dates, addresses. Trauma does that. But this wasn't confusion. It felt intentional, like he was withholding information on purpose. I tried again, more gently, and asked for his date of birth. He told me the year, but not the day or month. When I pressed him, his expression changed. Not angry, not scared, just distant, like he was suddenly very far away. His vitals came back strange, but not impossible. Heart rate a little low, blood pressure slightly off, oxygen fine. Nothing that screamed emergency, but enough that we couldn't ignore him. I told him we'd run some tests, get him comfortable, and figure out what was going on. He nodded like he already knew that's what I was going to say. When I went to log him into the system, I ran into my first real problem. The triage entry wasn't there. I refreshed the screen, thinking it was lagging. Nothing. I checked under pending admissions. Still nothing. I assumed it was a simple oversight, so I walked back to triage to confirm his info. The nurse frowned and swore she'd entered him already. She even remembered walking him to the bed herself. We both stood there, staring at the screen longer than necessary. Eventually, she shrugged and said she'd re-enter it. That should have fixed everything. It didn't. The system rejected the entry like the patient didn't exist. No error message, no warning, just nothing. By then, another nurse had gone to draw blood. She came back a minute later with an odd look on her face and asked if we'd moved the patient. We hadn't. She said the bed assignment on her handheld device was suddenly blank. No name, no ID number, just an empty field where a patient should be. We went back together. The man was still there, sitting exactly the same way, calm, watching us. He asked very politely if something was wrong. I lied and told him no, just a minor delay. As we hooked him up to a monitor, I noticed something that made my stomach tighten. The monitor was reading his vitals, but they weren't saving. No matter how many times we tried, nothing logged. It was like the data vanished the moment it was recorded. Other staff started noticing. A doctor tried pulling up the chart and couldn't. Another nurse joked that maybe we'd all forgotten how to use the system at the same time. Nobody laughed. There was a growing sense of discomfort, the kind you get when something is off, but you can't point to why. The man didn't complain, didn't move. He just watched us with that same faint, knowing smile. At some point, a trauma case came in. Chaos erupted like it always does. Stretchers rolling, voices raised, alarm sounding. I was pulled away for what felt like no more than 5 minutes. When I came back, the bed was empty. Not messy, not disturbed, just empty. The sheets were neatly folded back. The monitor leads disconnected and resting on the mattress like someone had carefully placed them there. No one remembered discharging him. Security hadn't seen him leave. The doors hadn't been triggered. We checked the bathrooms, the hallways, even outside. Nothing. Later, we reviewed the security footage. That's the part I don't talk about much. The camera showed the bed. It showed staff moving in and out. But at no point did it show the man leaving. There was a moment, just a few seconds, where the footage glitched. When it came back, the bed was empty. No movement. No explanation. Administration told us to drop it. No report was filed. No incident logged.
Officially, the patient was never there, but every person who worked that shift remembers him. We don't bring it up anymore. There's an unspoken rule about it, like acknowledging it would invite something back. Sometimes, during quieter nights, I think about the last thing he said to me. Right before the trauma case came in, he looked at me and said, "You won't find me later." I laughed it off at the time. I thought he was being dramatic. Now, every time I walk past that bed, I feel a chill, because he was right. We never did find him, and according to the hospital, there was never anyone to find in the first place.